Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sean with Manly Made Minute, and this is going to be my first video in my mixed media, we'll just call it the journey, the challenge, the road, my mixed media series, whatever we want to call it. I have started venturing more into the distress line of Tim Holtz. Tim Holtz Distress Oxides, Distress Inks, now Distress Spritz. Got some textured pastes and opaque pastes and all that kind of stuff going. I've got some tags. I recently purchased some tags and I'm going down that road. So bear with me. First video doing tags. I've done a little bit of prep. I actually haven't even made a full tag yet. I have an idea. I have a concept. I have things prepped and ready to go. So we're going to make a tag today. And I've pre-made, this is months and months ago, starting to practice with this, thinking I was going to go into this and buy some product. So I tested some things. I'll show you my test runs. Then this is where I'm heading for my tag. But I have a ton of my old photos that my mother has passed along to me. And I thought these would be great to make cards out of, those vintage photo cards. So yes, Mother, if you are watching, these are my actual photos, but I'm going to start using these photos in my mixed media and different things. Not all the time, maybe some birthday cards out of them, and who knows, just that vintage kind of old school kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to do. So bear with me as we kind of walk through this and get things going. So before we go down to that down camera and get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Would love to have you follow along as I go down this mixed media journey. I've got a Monday Moments series. I've got a Scrappy Short series every other Saturday. And I'm doing a lot of videos in between during the week, trying to commit to going lives on Thursday evenings. So hopefully you come back and see my lives. So let's go down to the down camera and let's just kind of see what concept I have ready for today, and we're going to give this a shot. So let's just start by showing you what I practiced with several months ago before making some big purchases into this. I had bought some Distress inks and was playing around. I had went and bought some old books at an antique store, was playing around. So this is kind of what I'm going for. And I've got some old stamps that I was trying from some older stamp sets. They are from Close to My Heart's, Close to My Heart stamp sets that I threw on here. This was me playing with my first set of texture paste. Threw it down after I thought this would dry and it picked up the colors. Didn't realize it would do that. Again, I've learned since that it does. Opaque will not. And so you can kind of see where it's picked up the colors and the stamping and stuff after I put that on, because I wanted this to be bright white. But I'm happy with it. It actually turned out kind of cool. So I'm thinking of making cards out of these, or even some artist trading cards out of these is kind of what I'm thinking. So I just made them practicing with some different stamps and things I have. This is where I'm going with the tag today. I have done a little pre-work just so that I had some stuff dry to work with. So I pre-made this with gesso on these manila cards. They're just, I'll be honest, they're a little cheaper kind of manila cards. I just bought them so I'm not committed to a lot of expense as I try this out, okay? So I gessoed this old book page on. Overlapped it, right? I'll cut this off when we get there. So I want to just show you what I did. I pre-gessoed this just to get a little grit, little stick to this, and I'll re-wet this just a little bit with some gesso and lay this down, and that's what I've done here. So just to show you what I've done, and again, when I was making these and another thing I had a video on with the book pages, it was suggested to me to get gesso. It would do what I wanted it to do, because this is very brittle. Like, it just literally, it's an old book, and it wasn't sticking, and then it was sucking up the ink really good, where I'm like, that's not the effect I wanted. Somebody suggested gesso. So I'm just going to tear, and this, actually it's so old it almost wants to tear just in a straight line. You got to kind of force it, because it's brittle. All right, so gesso this up, okay? Nice thin layer of gesso. So it's wet on the back side, and then I want this so it almost acts as my glue, and then you got to wet it down on the front side to get it to stick. So, and I want that tooth on this book page so that it'll grab color that whatever I'm going to use on this, oxide sprays, ink, whatever I'm going to use, I need it to grab that better than just soaking it up. And I'm just, again, it's mixed media, randomly kind of throwing this on where I want it. We're going to go this way. Not sure what the book is. I haven't read the book, but I did buy it at a antique store. I just kind of went antiquing, found this place had like 5 books for like $15 or something, so I bought 5. It was in a bundle. Okay, that's it. That's what I did here. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside so this dries, and I will use that at another time. Okay, let me just wipe up my workspace and get the gesso off my surface here. And I'm just using like a industrial cleaner just to get that gesso off. Okay, so this is the Diana Wakley Media Clear Gesso from Ranger Ink. Okay, no particular reason why the brand. It was just a gesso I found to try. May get it in bigger bulk if I discover I'd like to do this more. All right, next phase I want to do, because I'm going to need this to dry, is I need to spray this up and get this inked up and what I want it to do, right? So I'm using oxides. No particular reasons. I'm just trying to get comfortable with oxides as I do this. So I'm just trying to get a little bit more. Let me move my camera up just a tiny bit since I'm standing here. I'm just trying to get comfortable with the oxides, comfortable with the effect of the oxides and blending with the oxides. So I'm going to stick with oxides probably for a little while just to get used to them. All right, shaking them up. I've worked with them a little bit this morning already, so they aren't too settled on me. And I just know from what I've been researching and watching some other people's videos, Tiffany Solario, I think is her name, wonderful, does great videos on this stuff. Learning a ton from her because she seems to be, she is neck deep in distress, and I love it. So, and I love her look, I love her thought process. All right, so starting kind of light to dark with these, and I'll just get them all shook up really good so they're mixed. And then I'm just going to use my splatter box just because I have stuff laying around all the edge here, just trying to prepare as much as possible so I wasn't a 2-hour video here. So I'm going to start with pumice stone and just throw down some color. And I know the idea here is I'm going to get these wet here first. Then a little antique linen mixed in there. And then we'll just wet this down, get this to move a little bit for me. And now gesso, you can see it wants to bead up just slightly on this gesso, which is okay. Hopefully I can get this to dry up and layer up and then not beat up as much. And again, this is first time working on this, okay? Give this a little dry. I know layering and drying in between is good, and it's one of those keep going with it to get the layers, right? I'll try splattering. I'm going to try spraying and spritzing just to get these different effects. But I'm going for this antique-y with a little bit of bluish tinge to it. I've got some old stamps already set aside here. I don't have a ton of Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous kind of vintagey stuff yet, so I'm using what I have. That I got some vintage kind of stuff for they're old, close to my heart stuff that I purchased when I first started card making from a lady that was no longer going to be doing it. So this seems to get a good base sticking to that gesso. So I'm going to just kind of give myself a little bit more, I think, of the pumice stone. And I just want dabs, okay? Then I'm going to go in with my squeezed lemonade. And get some dots of this in there. Now what I want to see is with this gesso, now if I wet this just again and get this to move, will this move like I want it to? Oh yeah, it moves. Yep, it's going. And I'm gonna dry, just to keep this yellow where it's at. And I want this layered from underneath, right? It just seems like even Tiffany layers and layers a lot, and then dries a lot in between. So that's what we're working on. And those oxides mute down so much once they're dry. So that's what I'm trying to get comfortable with. Is it looks great wet, but then when it dries back, it's going to dry back quite a bit more muted. So, not worried about that getting completely dry. So, all right, I'm going to take my blue, and I just want my big chunks of blue in here. And this one is Broken China. Again, wetting it. Now you can see how that just immediately started to bloom. And so I want some runoff with this. Actually dry that back. What I'm learning is, the little bit I've been practicing with this, is not to overdo it, because sometimes I get like I keep going, we're thinking more and more and more, where it's like, no, like once you get it, we're like, ooh, yeah, stop there. Like literally stop there, dry back, and keep layering, because it's almost, you can overdo it, and all of a sudden it's like mud. You got like no dimension and no texture in there. So I'm learning trying to learn when to stop and then dry back and add more, to keep that layered and keep that intensity and that texture. Otherwise I feel like I lose that texture a lot. And I know I say this every video, but I love texture, in color texture, feeling texture on my cards. So I'm learning when to stop to keep that texture that I like so much. And I know, like, you can dab with your paper towel. I try not to dab too much. I feel like I always pull back too much when I do that. So I'm gonna probably throw on, let me just grab, I want to throw just a little bit of, let's see. I'm going to go just a little bit of dried marigold before I start throwing some browns on there. And I actually might throw a little bit of green into it. All right, throw a little bit of marigold. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of green on top of this, wet it, meld it, and then I'm going to start bringing in my browns. Got to make sure that's all mixed up off the bottom. All right, going to get a little bit of this mowed lawn in here. Okay, I'm going to give this a little wet to get some movement off of that. I want that marigold to spread just a little bit in there. All right, let's throw this back. Now I've gotten out my scorched timber. And I'm checking to see what I have in my inks. I think it's scorched timber. Yeah, it's still scorched timber. But I might take a little bit of that forest moss from my spray ink here. So I'm starting to get that marbly that I want. And you can see it's pooling up in between where I left the newspaper, or excuse me, not newspaper, the old book off, with some gaps. It's pooling up in between there, which I like. I'm going to give this just a little deeper green here. And then I'm going to edge this, I think, around. just to start giving me that frame. And that soaks in, I can see that right, you know, that acts differently for sure. So I could have wet that just a little bit more. I'm gonna give this a spray so I have some stuff here around the edge. Give that a little bit more right there in that corner. Yeah, I'm liking this. This is fun. This is really fun, actually. If you haven't tried any of this mixed media kind of stuff, don't be shy. Like, just, you know, I've got the ink pads as well. So I could literally be ink smushing. I've done ink smushing. I've got videos out there with me ink smushing. And so this is just a different form of this whole concept, right? But I can now see the importance of this layering and this drying in between and getting these different colors to pop through where they're going to pop through. But again, this oxide gives you a whole different look. It is not bright. It is not crazy colorful. The brightness that you're going to get from this, like you would the inks. This last one was the Forest Moss ink. You can see the difference. The color's just a little bit more intense, but now it's sitting on the oxides where it's going to react with that oxide. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to use the Scorched Timber oxide. It's the only dark, I believe, let me just double check my bin here. Right now it's the only darker brownish oxide in the spray that I have, but I do have some darker ones that I could ink smush in the pads. All right, and I just want to keep that on the one side where I'm going to put my photo and things kind of in the other side there. And I'm just going to give this just a tiny bit of this marigold up in with it. Just so I can get that to run on the top of that a little. Yeah, I like how that mixes in there. There we go. Nice little run of gold around in there. And I may end up just stopping here and doing some splatter and leaving it. And I might use water. I might use just plain old black to splatter this. But I'm going to stop here because I can see where this is now getting. I'm starting to lose some of it, right? So I'm going to stop after this. So yeah, I could have used a little bit of darker. That brown got a little mucky. So a little deeper, darker there, but that's okay. Again, first tag, so make sure it's good and dry before I start stamping over it. So feel free to comment if you've done the tags, if you've got videos out there with tags and things. I'd love to see them. I'd love to see what everybody's done, you know, compared to my first try here. I'm going to throw just a little, get some blue popping up on the top with some splatter. And I'm just going to dry that back as is, leave it, and I'm done. All right, let me set this stuff aside as I'm drying. We're going to get out my stamps and just use some black stamping over the top of this. I'm going to get out my Ranger Archival. And I may pull some of this back. I may water splatter this and take some of this back. Just that another layer of texture, you know. Okay, so I'm just going to take some spray here. I'm going to do this off the side, pulling it up pretty good in my hand because I want big splatters. There we go. And I'm just kind of squeezing it out of my hand. Let that react and pull back, and then I'm dabbing it off. Dry and start stamping. Now, I'm going to pull these stamps out that I've got here. So I've got these background stamps. These are all close to my heart. So out of business, unfortunately, this past year, but they still have some great stamps. So these are what I have for some vintagey kind of stuff that I wanted to use. This is like cameras, different old cameras. And since I'm using an actual photo, I'm probably going to do one of the old cameras for sure. Some bicycles, little backgroundy kind of, you know, dots and things. Some kind of vintagey stars to throw on there. So that's kind of what I'm going to work with for this first one. I also have some leaves that I've pre-cut out. These are just from other videos and other cards that I've made that I might pull a couple of those out, jazz them up with some splatter or something, and throw them behind the photo. I don't have a ton of elements right now, so I pulled some string and different cardboardy kind of stuff to throw behind this for now. All right, let's just take this out, and here's what I have. So still some great texture in there. Now that I look at the up camera, it's in there. It's definitely in there. So I'm going to take and trim this down and trim off all this excess so I know where to stamp. And this is just from over gluing basically. And the back got a little messy. I haven't seen anybody show the backs of theirs. So are they just leaving them messy? Are they inking the backs too, coloring the backs? What's everybody do? I mean, I guess I could throw some DSP or something on the back of this, which would look cool to match or something. But I haven't seen anybody talk about the back. So I'd like to know what everybody does with the backs of their mixed media stuff. Okay. All right. Let's just do some stamping. This actually looks like this is going to be fun. This is actually going to be super fun. I want to start with a camera, and I actually really like this old school camera. So I'm going to start with this one. Let me get out a block to use. Probably don't even need a block. I could just use the stamp as is, because I've seen that too. But we're going to throw this one up on a block. Okay. All right. So let's just get this inked up. It's an older stamp, so it's got a little stick to it. I can feel it. So I'm just going to throw this right up in this corner, and then I'm going to off stamp it over here. So I get a second generation of that. Okay, we'll wipe this off before I just take it off. I just clean it so I don't get all inky all over. Could have got a better impression on that one, pushed down, but that's okay. Off stamped on that edge, but again, I think I just have to be comfortable with some of these not perfect stamps too. You know, that's the purpose, I think, of this. All right, so that's the camera. I think I'm good on the camera. Yeah, it just has more on the back. I want to use, where did it go? This one. This has a very vintage vibe to it too. So I'm just going to use one edge of this. And I don't think I'm going to actually take it off the plastic even. I think I'm just going to dab this in my ink and just do just a light impression, like so. Oh, I'm liking this because I can see that how that second generation really gives you that faded kind of vintage feel. I like that. So, and maybe it's not inking up as much on that first time too, so I don't get it so bright. But I can probably mute that down. I like these little thingies right here. So let's just do a little bit of those. I'm not going to ink this up as much. I'm just lightly tapping to see what I get. Very light. I like that. we're gonna throw one right in here. It's gonna be over the ripples, so it might not stamp all. That's okay. And throw just a little bit right there. And I feel like I need maybe one more or two more elements, and then that's it. So I think I'm done with this one. And I want to use, I think, another background. And so I'm going to use, where's those? Here it is. These dots. And I think I'm going to do the same thing. I think, well, it's got smooth and then it's dotted here. So I'm going to use the block. But I'm going to switch. I'm going to go to a dark brown. I'm going to use this S'mores by Catherine Pooler and just lightly dab some of that in. And just do some light brown. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm gonna stop there, I think, with this because I want to add some other layers of texture of some of the elements that I do have. So what I would like to do is I've got some cardboard that I thought would be fun. Well, actually, here, let's just do one more. I have this envelope. I won't turn it over because it's got an address of the sender on the front. But it's a padded envelope, and I thought it would be fun. The inside is bubble wrap, right? So I thought it'd be fun to do a little bubble wrap. And I'm just going to grab a different color. And I'm going to grab, I think a deep red would be nice. So I'm going to, let's just do purple. I'm going to use the Grape Crush by Catherine Pooler. Again, I'm going to just do light. I tap some of these in there. Gave me just a little bit of color. I like that a lot. This is what I'm liking about this is it's just play. This is like play. It's not necessarily crazy structured. So actually, I'm a saver. I'm just going to cut that off and save it and throw this away, so I can save that bubble wrap. I'm really digging this. I want to add some splatter to this. And I think I'm going to go some gold splatter. So I'm going to grab my watercolor set, and I've got this little mini set that I like a lot. And so I've got this Myling watercolor pan set. Got a gold in here. I've used a ton. You can see this one's probably the most used. But I also have this one I bought on Amazon. It's a little travel one. And I like the golds and coppers in here. So actually this copper would be really fun. Even this rose gold, but it's a little too rose. So I'm going to use this copper and do a little splatter with that copper. And let me grab a good splatter brush that I have. Because I think just that little bit of shimmer would be kind of nice on this. So I'm going to wet that down. I'm going to throw this, because I've got stuff sitting out all over here, I'm going to throw this back into my splatter box. And then what I want to do is take a piece of cardboard and splatter and ink up that cardboard and rough it up with some ink pads. All right, let's just give us a little. Oh, that copper looks great. I want some big splatter, so let's get this good and wet. I don't want like chunky splatter. There we go. Just twist this. I learned from Tiffany, twist it so your splatters aren't all in the same direction. Now I know because this is oxide, it's going to react, right? So I'm going to get this dry here. All right, let me dry this back. Digging this a lot. All right, I'm going to take 2 pieces of some other texture here. Piece of cardboard, and I've got some craft packing paper. I'm going to just rough this up. I've got some ink pads over here on the side. Let me just wipe up my splatter. All right. I'll keep drying here as we go. So I've pulled these out just to kind of rough up those pieces of paper. So I've got hickory smoke, aged mahogany, frayed burlap, scorched timber, walnut stain, and some peacock feathers. Trying to get, pulling some of this color into these pieces. This is what I'm going to put my picture on. And I'm saving this picture till last because it's kind of funny and fun, I think. I'm digging this a ton. I think that shimmer adds just a little extra jazz to that and ties that together really nicely. So I'm really digging this. Okay, I'm going to set this aside now to dry the rest of the way. And then we'll pull this back out here once we get these pieces done. So I want to add these couple layered elements on here. So I am just going to grab, let's just use this cardboard, that one's drying, just this little, as a sample, so I know how big to make this. So I'm just going to tear up a piece, and what I want to do is just put this behind, make it just a little smaller and rough up all these. I don't want any straight edges to show. Okay, so I want this to be glued behind a piece of this corrugated cardboard. So I'm going to rip this open. Okay, and tear up a chunk of this, and this is what my card is going to sit on. And I want that corrugated to show, so I'm pulling off all this paper to show the corrugated piece. So I want this and this. Just make this a little smaller so we have more of that. There we go. So I want this and this like so. So I'm going to rough these up. So since this is going to be behind, I'm going to try to get more blue on this. So I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper, and I'm just going to take my peacock feathers, and I'm just going to rough this up so you can see after I scrumpled it up, it's grabbing my wrinkled pieces, right? I'm going to get a little aged mahogany onto that. Just layering in some color on this. And then, yes, I want a little darkness on this. Just add that scorched timber, going a little bit more light-handed on here so I don't cover up that blue and that aged mahogany. And I'm digging where that is at. Now, I'm going to take this one, though, and I want this dark. So I'm going to start with my hickory smoke. Okay, rough that up. A little walnut stain. And now I'm just going to do my scorched timber. And I'm kind of pushing this down and in. And I actually am going to take over that, stand by. I want my, where did she go? I have aged mahogany spray stain. So we're just going to give this a little spritz of some aged mahogany on there. And I'm going to layer this like so with my picture on it. So I'm going to scrunch this back up a little bit, like that. I'm going to put a big glob of glue onto this. And then I'm going to stick this down there and get that glued on. And I'm going to add one more element. I have this old, it's like a plasticky twine. What I thought would be fun to throw behind this is I'm just going to cut a piece off. It frays, not make that so long so I can just pull all of this apart. Okay. Then I'm going to take this yellow, so I don't want this too bright. I'm going to take my scratch piece of paper again. I'm going to lay this down, and then I'm going to pick up my scorched timber and see if I can't just color this brightness down on this just a little bit. So it gets more of a brown yellow color. This, I hadn't tried this before, but I just grabbed it and kind of walked around to see what I had for some elements. I'm just trying to get texture. I don't have a ton of other elements, so that's what I'm trying to do here. And then we'll throw this behind here and stick this around the edges so I have this poking out. Okay? So we're just going to spread this out like so. And get this just to glue down, and this will stick once I lay this on the tag itself as well. That's all I really have for elements, but I think I need to add some leaves to poke around. And I have these ones that were made from some designer paper, but these ones actually might look better. These are some Gina K Designs leaves that I'd cut and ink blended. And that one. I think we're going to throw those around there. This one here, I'm going to just throw this one in and spray some forest moss on it to bring that brightness down just a little bit. And I'm just going to dry it. So I threw that in my splatter box, sprayed it just to bring it down a little bit in brightness. And that's it. I'll give it just a little scorched timber too. It soaks up into this paper. It's like a designer series paper, so it soaks up in that pretty good. All right, we'll get this dry. I'm gonna assemble. I think I'm just gonna kind of call it a day there and see how this turns out. All right, so here's my tag. I've got my one element here, and then I'm gonna show you the picture. Just getting this one last leaf dry here. Drying up that nice and dry so it'll stick here when I glue everything. Okay. And I'm going to grab some twine. I have a whole bunch of twine behind me. We're going to just throw that on the tag itself. Okay. I'm happy with this. I don't feel like that is too horrible. It's not too horrible. I guess as Gina K would say, it's better than horrible, right? Now I'm going to do this and this and this. See how that looks. Like that. But I wonder if I should throw some color. But I think this one instead. And let me just cut that down smaller, because I feel like I could go here, here, and my picture is going to kind of be in this middle. So there, and there. This would be over that like so. Yep, but it's got to be out a little bit more, because of how big that element is. Okay, let me glue these down. And that way we have these sticking where I need them to stick. And we'll just dab some on the back here and tack this down. So I'm feeling like I didn't do too bad. Feel free to share any tips, tricks that you may have that could help me if I'm doing good. Any tips and tricks for elements? I have purchased some Tim Holtz ephemera pack. It's on the way. I just don't know what else to get for elements. I've saved scraps and things too, so I just look. I'm open to any suggestions that you may have to get a stash of elements and mixed media stuff going. Would be very helpful. Okay, so now I'm going to just put a good chunk of glue down on this to get this to stick onto my card. Like so. I'm going to put a weight on there to get that to stick while I show you my card. Okay, no judging here at all. This card, I have to look at the back date. This is from May 1988. I was in 8th grade, and I was a hurdler in track. So that is my picture. I've die cut it out with a stitch die. Then I've gone through with some distress inks and oxides and distressed the edges. I took the white down. I put, I think, frayed burlap over the whole thing to take the brightness of the sky and the brightness of the hurdles down, just to antique this a little more, and I put some browns around the edges just to get this more of an antique kind of feel. Then I would like to make this more of an encouraging kind of card. So I thought, since I'm looking down and going like this, it'd be fun to keep looking up for an encouragement tag, right? So let's, while this is drying, I'm going to stamp out my greeting, and we're going to just throw this on a little scrap piece of craft. And let's see, I need my stamping tool. I'm realizing this gets messy. Like, this kind of stuff gets really messy. But I wasn't as organized with this as I probably could have been. Because I'm like, let's just throw stuff. Let's just do it. Let's just get it together and start recording. All right, I want to do keep looking up. And this does not come with the die set, so I'm going to fussy cut this one out. All right, and let me just tack that down. And I'm going to use just that dark brown s'mores again to ink this up. I think black might be too crisp. This just gives me that, and stays with that antique feel. May need to stamp this at least twice. That was actually pretty crisp, but I want a little darker. So let's just give this one more. I'm gonna go just one more, and then I'll probably just do those edges of it a little bit. There we go. All right. Let's just fussy cut this out. And I'm just going to go around the edges, just a really easy, simple fussy cut. Nothing too crazy fancy. Keep this kind of simple. It's actually nice big lettering, so it's easy to kind of just follow as a guide when its lettering is just this big, right? Perfect. I have a little bit of ink left over on this, so we're just going to rough up that edge and antique that out just a little bit so it's not quite so bright. Okay, here we go. Here we go. My card. I don't feel like I want to put a frame around that, but I'm wondering if it would be easier. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to just put it up on dimensionals and glue it on dimensionals, actually. Debated on a craft frame, but I'm going to do it this way, so it's not too overly done. And I'll just heavily glue this because of this the ridges here on the cardboard to glue this down. I'll just heavily glue the back of this. And then we'll find where we want to place this the sentiment. So I am enjoying this. This is going to be a fun journey. I had put out in one of my recent videos that this is my next phase. I feel this is my vibe. I think I had said in my 1-year anniversary live. So you can head back and find that live from my 1-year anniversary for YouTube. This I feel is my vibe. This is I like this look. I like this kind of concept of card making. Don't get me wrong. I love, love, love the florals. I love all the other ones that I've been doing up to this point. But this to me feels so creative, and I just love this distressed, roughed up, textured kind of stuff, right? So this is definitely my vibe. And I think this needs to go up in that one little corner where I've got a little gap. Let's just look before I tack this down. Heck yeah, that's where I was going to go here and maybe keep that. I like that gap. I think it needs to be in with this cluster, actually. So we're going to keep it with that cluster and keep my little gap up on top here, because then you can see some of that stuff, right? So we're going to throw it right in this cluster. Get that to stick. Take my twine. So this is just good old regular twine. Put a little loop on here and throw this as my little tie. And let's get that to loop in there. Wow, I love this. This I love. I love these. I love the photos like this. I love this whole collage. If I can just figure out other collage-y stuff to put with this. So any suggestion you have, please put it in the comments. I would love to learn this even better and more. So any suggestions on stuff to put and get and have as little stashy things and save stuff, even if you like, hey, save your old mail or whatever. I was thinking the other night I need to start cutting all the stamps off and save stamps off my mail. So here you go. Let me show you the front view, because this camera picks up really nice. So here's my first tag, here's my first collage, here's my first like true on mixed media kind of something, and I'm happy with it. I'm very, very, very happy with it. So thank you so much for hanging with me. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button here. Would love to have you follow along. Would love any comments you have to help make this process better, and things that I can add to this. So that's picking up pretty nice. Thank you so much, and until next time, I'll see you then.